Hi, thank you for coming to today's show of In Focus, and I'm Dani Walsh, your Bloomfield Township Supervisor. Today I'm joined by our Director of Public Works, Noah Mehelski, and our Director of Engineering and Environmental Services, Corey Almas, and we're going to be talking about the project that's going to affect a lot of our township, both our residents and our businesses, as well as surrounding areas. We're talking about Square Lake Road and it'll be from I-75 over to Woodward. We're going to be doing roads and sewers and drainage. So I brought you the experts today to really help, because obviously a project of this size, we need to prepare and be ready for it. So thank you both for coming for us today.
Good morning, Dani.
Who wants it? Well, we'll go with the pro. Noah, like I said, he should be my co-star because he's on here so much. So Noah, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Noah Mehelski. I'm the Director of Public Works here in Bloomfield Township. I've been with the township for over 15 years. I started in the engineering department as the environmental specialist and then kind of worked my way up through the organization. I'd like to focus on the coordination. We've known about this project from an engineering and from a DPW standpoint for 5 to 6 years already. And what we've used that time for is to basically coordinate efforts to make sure that our systems, our utilities are in good shape under Square Lake Road. The last thing we want to do is have a major construction project on Square Lake Road that impacts things the way this one's going to, and not have taken care of our infrastructure underneath, resulting in further construction out there in future years. So my DPW went out and inspected our systems years ago. We identified several problems that were existing out there that will benefit by being taken care of during this construction project, and by the same contractor that's out there working, Dan's Excavating, which is a high-level organization and takes on major projects throughout the state. I'm sure you've probably seen them around the Metro Detroit area when they're doing their work out there. So in my mind, HRC was the design engineer as part of this project. That allowed for that great coordination, and MDOT's folks up there, their engineers, their management personnel have been very reactive to the kind of concerns or the kind of push and pull factors that we're dealing with. So.
Great. And we also have Director of Engineering and Environmental Services, Corey Almas.
Good morning, Dani. Yeah, and to echo Noah's point, that's really an approach that engineering and DPW has taken, not just on the Square Lake project, but many other projects in the township. For example, the sidewalk repair program, when there's an SAD project, we want to get out there and identify not just the safety path, but the infrastructure as well. So this is just case in point. In getting out in advance of the construction, identifying what's underground, the utilities underground, and making sure that they're in repair. The last thing we want to do as a township is have to go out after millions of dollars are spent in road construction and have to open cut and dig into a brand new road. So this is time and money well spent in advance of the project in itself.
And when it is a project like this, a lot of people, we hear about as residents, once it's towards the end, once the design has been done, the planning has been done. But a project of this size, as you point out, starts 5-6 years in advance. So let's kind of walk through where does it start? It was actually before I was in this spot and before you were in your spot.
Yeah.
So you're the elder statesman on this one. Go ahead and leave it.
First, I think what started this process was a funding availability. I think a conjunction with the realignment of I-75 and that huge project that was going on then necessitated realignment and reconstruction of these ramps and this business loop as well, right? So the funding became available, the need was there, so there was that nexus, and then they've just been doing the engineering. It's a major artery and a major connector in the area and kind of regionally. We've seen that from how the kind of impacts of the detours are going to be. So it took all that thinking and planning had to go into place to kind of get this to where, these major construction projects need to be. This is literally, you couldn't compress this down into a 2-year, product. And that's where when you do that compression, that's where you have inefficiency and miss things and things like that. So
It also doesn't allow for the input from the communities, from the residents, that something like this allowed. Sometimes it's okay to slow something down if you're going to get a better product out of it.
Yep, and we've had opportunity from the staff level, additionally from the public's input. MDOT's been receptive to that. You know, I know you've been in meetings, I've been in meetings to that regard as well, so.
And honestly, this is one of the examples that we use with MDOT. We have an engaged employee base, we have an engaged residential base, and the surrounding businesses. They had gone through a couple years where they didn't do public meetings because of COVID. And not a lot of people really showed up because a lot of times you don't have the engagement that you do from a 97% residential area. So when they did have that public meeting for us about a ramp, it was amazing to see hundreds of residents showed up. Staff was there. We had state legislators there. We had the school superintendent was there. And it was funny because MDOT actually, one of the gentlemen in the room said, wow, looks like we're going to have some more meetings with Bloomfield. And that helped create, if we wouldn't have all been involved, it would have been a different face of this project. There would have been a missing ramp. And instead, MDOT pivoted, took time to delay their project, redesign that area to keep that ramp. And then when you got involved, they even helped redesign how they normally handle poles.
Yeah.
Because we would have had a few 100-foot poles, at least 3, and they again pivoted within 48 hours.
Yeah, they were very
on that one.
they're very receptive. MDOT was to the wants and needs of the township. Now the communication poles and it's telecommunication or video instantaneous. What's the word? Telecommunication for
safety.
For safety purposes. They can identify real time what's happening on the freeways, and there was an ask. Or a proposal from MDOT to have very, very tall poles that potentially would have been an eyesore for the township. The MDOT was very receptive to our concerns with the unsightly poles in those locations along the freeway or the off-ramp, Square Lake Road. And they said, well, let us look into it. And they did, and they responded back to us, and they accommodated to our needs and wants.
Right.
So it's good to have a working relationship with MDOT or any other entity in the way that we have with MDOT right now.
And Lori Swanson is their Oakland TSC manager. So each division, each area, like Detroit, Oakland County, others, they have that one main face. And she has been so involved ever since the ramp discussion a couple years ago that they're now even involved with us when trees are touched because, of course, normal, and that happened here on one of the other projects is they come in, they clear cut everything in their way because it does speed up processes, and they realized in the same area, those residents were already affected once. When we had telegraph just recently had to be done with the storms in January, we had a lot of trees that had fallen in the streets, and that's because they had gone too far out into it. They actually, whose team did they work with? They worked with somebody to go and literally look at every tree to see which one could be saved.
I know they were involved with DPW first, you know, and I don't know if engineering got involved, but that kind of is just illustrative of the all hands on deck and the communication throughout, you know, so.
Right. Yeah. It is amazing to see because that, again, slowed down their process a little. And with the poles, and you and your staff were so instrumental. We're used to 40-foot poles. You know, I have a telephone pole on my yard. You're used to seeing it. But those 8,500-foot, they would be our first that we would notice. And they were able to reduce 2 of the 3 down to 40, which is actually underneath our normal. And then we agreed to the higher one because the other option is to cut the trees.
Right.
To put the 40-foot in there. Better to put one a little taller than the trees.
Yeah, they needed to have the one single 85-foot pole to have their vantage points east and west of on Square Lake Road and up to I-75. So they had that one request. Had they gone down to a 60-foot pole even, their comments were, well, we'd have to take some trees out. And we're not in favor of that. The township's not in favor of removing trees, just to remove trees. So
our biggest concern was the safety.
Yep.
And then our next concern was how can we have safety without totally clear cutting? And your staff worked very quick. I mean, it was probably from the day we reached out till within 2 days we had new schematics. So, you know, you turned a big ship pretty quickly.
That's what we do. That's what we do. So but again, and accolades and kudos to the people over at MDOT as well. Right. And it's nice to work with a group like that that's accommodating to our needs.
Right. They have been a partnership. So now that we're through that design phase, now we're at the crunch where it's going to hurt in a sense of road construction. I always tell people, they say, what's your job like? I say, well, the phone usually is the same person, by the way. You need to fix the roads. Then we go to fix the roads. Why is my road shut down? I said, well, that's the process. So we will have some very, very tight areas where there's going to be shutdowns. So walk us through that.
Yeah, Danny, just to be blunt about it, people are going to hate it. It's during the construction phase and the road closure phase, which is going to start Monday, April 15th. People are going to hate it. It's point blankly, it's going to suck.
Construction is never
for
easy.
travelers coming. It's never easy. It's never an easy thing. For the travelers that travel through the township, for the residents who live within the township and nearby that, and they're going to experience congestion. Traffic congestion, that people are going to be going up and down residential streets trying to find a quicker way to do it or to get through, and it's going to be painful at least for the first couple weeks, where people find out, hey, to avoid the area altogether or find a different way to go. But just expect it to happen, and there's limitations of what MDOT can do with respect to signing on residential roads, because it's a public road. You can't prevent anybody from just driving down a road. They have every right to drive down the road. Now, if they're speeding, well, that's an enforcement issue. But vehicles do have a right to travel down the road. So expect it. It's going to sting the first couple months, but when this project is over, typically road projects they're nice and new, and it's nice to have that as well, rather than going over potholes and dilapidated roads. To have a new road and that has this volume of traffic on a daily basis is going to be nice and new for the township.
Yep, and one thing I'll point out is that we are mitigating those factors with a full team from MDOT, the township, all the role players. We had meetings with first responders. The hospitals are going to be impacted. A lot of thought went into mitigating the issues that are going to be kind of natural to occur out there with this type of project. So that's important. We will continue to do that. The police were at the table. There'll be weekly meetings. There'll be updates on the site. We'll be reactive to the comments that we receive internally. Typically, DPW is like one of the first calls, for obviously a road issue, that type of stuff. So, we're mitigating those factors already. We'll be kind of nimble to change on the fly, to kind of mitigate additional factors, and then just kind of be out there monitoring the situation throughout. So.
And you're also going to be doing a coordinated project with our sewer system, or what is the project? What we like to do is, if we know something's coming, you don't want to rip something up and affect people twice. So you have another project too that's township related that's kind of working in tandem.
Yeah, so through the old through engineering really is how DPW gets these projects done. But there was actually a failure of a sewer that was eaten away under Woodward and Square Lake, and if some may recall that we attempted a fix on that, we got about halfway through that fix and ran into multiple, basically an underground river that prohibited the completion of that project. So with this project, it'll be able to be open cut. We were trying to bore it before, so that will allow us to complete that, which is a major hazard, which will be averted. Then there's 3 or 4 other alignment issues with the way that Square Lake Road was added onto over the years, and the way the road grew. It caused alignment issues within the sewer and some bends that aren't exactly what we'd like to see. So we're going to take care of those. In addition, we're lining everything under Square Lake Road so that we will not have to come back and dig up that roadway. That's really what we're trying to avoid. In addition to removing this major hazard that's literally, this is a sewer that it's a cement sewer, and the bottom has been eaten out of it by whatever chemical was present in the sewer. We lined it, and then the liner got eaten away as well. So this is a major kind of problem out there. So.
Like you mentioned with boring, you're trying to not disturb the surface. It's sometimes a little tougher when you don't know what you don't know,
right,
that there's an underground river. Right. So something when it's open cut, does that make it go faster because you can see everything, or is it just make it?
It's dynamic here. It actually makes it possible. What they were trying to do is they were trying to put a casing through, and then they were going to run the sewer through that casing. And when they were running the casing, it started to tip so much so that the sewer wouldn't have been able to make it through that. So in this case, boring this sewer would have been impossible. Okay. So an open cut option is the only option in this case. And yes, it will make it easier because now you don't have that overburden pushing down on the pipe from the top. You'll actually open it up and know the forces you're dealing with and be able to mitigate those. We kind of have dipped our toe in the water, and so that told us what we were working with a little bit more, so we've been able to kind of adapt to those known concerns now. And so that, that's all been kind of a failure wrapped up in a success story in the end, right? So, so that's definitely an interesting point of this.
And is there any drainage? I know with some of our road infrastructure, when they fix it, they don't affect drainage. Will drainage be at all touched on this one to improve?
Generally, when a new road is being constructed, they address the storm drainage as well. So it's just specific to the roadway, but anything beyond the road itself.
They should improve the drainage of the roadway because, even with a new design and pitching the road and any, patches that have augmented the drainage, but any kind of regional drainage improvements, likely not.
Okay. But there might be some minor improvement from not having
road edge if you live on, right. Yep, and runoff coming off the road, that should be minimized by this type of a project, so.
Yeah, anything within the limits of the roadway, and that includes the shoulder, coming down into the catch basins within the road, that'll be modified and improved.
Meet new standards, all that type of stuff. Yeah.
And I know that we had one project that was done in an SAD area, which is special assessment in one of the neighborhoods, and they were worried because now there was water coming off the road, and they thought, oh no, this caused some drainage problems. And we said, no, that's actually the way it's supposed to be. It's taking the water that used to sit there and cause the potholes and taking it off the road to extend the life. So for those that live along it, if they start to see water going in culverts and water in ditches, that actually means it's working, not that it's caused problems. Sometimes when we're not used to seeing water where drainage isn't working, you think there's a problem, but it's actually finally working correctly.
Yeah, all those storm drains are designed to efficiently remove the water from the roadway from a hydroplaning perspective to a maintenance and care and just general practice with roadways, as far as sloping and all that stuff, yeah.
Now, with a project like this, it kind of reminds me of Telegraph. When I've lived near Maple and Telegraph, and there was a time where they ripped up all of Telegraph. And it was hard. You are right. There was nothing good about that at all. But I should say there was one good thing. It was one season.
Yeah.
It was one season of horrible adjustments.
Yeah.
We had to change our daily lives for just that season. Normally, I believe a project would have taken longer. So is this going to fully shut down the road? And is that going to help, hopefully? We're trying to keep it in this one season, correct?
Yeah, the schedule is starting Monday. Westbound traffic from I-75 to Woodward will be closed. That's westbound. Now, the off-ramp to Updike will be open for local traffic to Updike for about a month or so, maybe a month and change. Then they have to close down the off-ramp to Updike, so that way, at that time, there'll be no more access from 75 westbound at all. Whether it's northbound or southbound, traffic's going to be detoured to M59, westbound 59 to wide track to Woodward back to Square Lake. That's phase one of this project. Once westbound construction is complete, they're looking at the end of July, early August for that first phase of construction. Once that's complete, then they'll open westbound traffic and close eastbound traffic. So at that point, traffic will be detoured back up north from Square Lake Road north to M59, M59 to 75. And that phase is going to go from early August to, November.
Yeah. With some mop-up work and next spring, grass planting, grading, that type of stuff.
So that includes that. Phase two will include the on-ramp at off of Updike to get onto eastbound Square Lake Road and the 75. Then that later on in the project, they didn't give us an actual time frame as to when that on-ramp will be reopened. So access could be obtained through to 75 on that Updike on-ramp.
And does MDOT have on their website a page specific to this? So if you're a resident in the area and you need to plan your detours, I'm assuming they've already laid out detours that they showed us last night at the meeting.
Yeah, I don't recall, Danny, if they've got a specific website. What MDOT has assured us that any press releases that they have, they will provide to the township.
Put that on our website.
On our websites and
I think it was going to be on their My Drive website, so there wasn't a specific one to it, but if you zoom down on that My Drive and you kind of get to the Metro Detroit area, then you can dig into the project information there. But we will propagate all that information forward. There's going to be 2 levels of press release, one for internal staff, one for external, so we can know what's coming. So, yeah, we can be a resource on that. We plan to act through the cable department as a resource on that.
And the other thing, police, as Noah mentioned earlier, police and fire be fully aware of every phases, where they have to go, how they're going to get there. MDOT's and the contractor, Dan's, has assured police and fire if there's an emergency that you get to need to and there's a lane to get there, we'll get you there. They're very experienced in projects like this, and emergency response is paramount for them. We'll have great access and correspondence with engineering and DPW if there's ever a need for us to be involved if they have any questions, whether it's with our utilities or any concerns that they have. We're going to have a great line of communication with them. So a big part of our role and our responsibility is be the liaison for our residents of the township. So if there's any questions that you have for us, feel free to reach out. If we don't have the answers, we'll put you in touch with the people who do.
One important thing that I'd like to point out, because it did come up yesterday and I hadn't considered this, is the Mulberry Square Apartments, and then the place of worship, and also 4 or 5 other homes that border right on Square Lake. Ingress and egress to those places will still be maintained throughout this project. So it's something I hadn't even considered, even though we've been in Mulberry Square, looking at their sewer, looking at water main in the adjacent neighborhood. So that is being accommodated throughout the project. So,
and you had done that with the place of worship. Sometimes we'll give an extension on hours to speed up a project where, again, we don't do overnight loud work, but if we can extend it or offer Saturdays and Sundays to knock it out faster, we will. And you had pointed out we should stay away from the Sunday because of the place of worship. So this kind of coordination that you all do makes it easier as well.
Yeah, Dan's in that initial pre-construction meeting, Dan's had mentioned that they have no intention of working on Sundays at this time, or Ajax Paving, but who's going to be their paving contractor. There might be some modifications when the paving operations goes, as far as maybe an extension of the noise variance to get the paving done for that day. So when it's a controlling operation of that way, I think of that nature, the township has a little bit more leniency with respect to the noise variance. So, but it would be a case-by-case basis. There's no anticipation at this time to work outside the noise variance restrictions, but if that does come, the township would consider that.
Yeah, we are cognizant of, the noise value at that area is very high during the day, but at night it is a softer. And you can hear, for example, I live maybe a half mile from Telegraph. I can hear it at night when my windows are open. So knowing that it impacts people along the road, anything we do outside of those hours won't be hopefully any overnight. And also when they are, it's the quiet.
Yep.
It's not the beeping. It's not the
Right.
Well, it's a double-edged sword. To live in that area of any construction, it's not easy. It's never easy. You're dealing with the dust, the dirt, the noise, the construction noise, the beeping from the heavy equipment. The impact by the detours and travelers, it's not easy. But on the second side of that, you want the project to go as quickly as possible. Right. And if that means extending the hours of construction, it's something to be considered. You're sympathetic to the residents who are impacted by it, but you also want to get that project done as quickly as possible.
Yeah, growing up, I always took the belt instead of the grounding, right? So we're setting up to maybe take the belt here, but it'll be a little bit shorter pain, right?
Yeah.
You're an angel.
So when I was in those situations, so
Oh my goodness.
it was a different time.
Gen X. Gen X is a different time for sure. Is there anything that you want to share? So I know information-wise, like you said, they could reach out to your departments, or some of that we will go ahead and make that available on our website. And like you mentioned, the cable department has so many ways that they engage with the people. There's the website. There's also our e-news blast, which if anybody's not signed up for that, you can go to the website or to our Facebook page and engage that way. And the website will give you the code to sign up. And every Thursday, it's an update of what's going on in the township. Or also some of our partners who are having events, we'll highlight those. So we'll put stuff on e-news, put stuff on the website, on social media. So if you don't follow already, please sign up. Is there anything else that you guys want to say to make sure? Again, we've already warned that it is not going to be a pleasant experience,
No.
but it will be a beautiful thing when it's done.
Our armies will be out there, on your behalf and on our own behalf, right? We have a keen sense of what this community expects and what we expect out of contractors and work to take place here. We'll be out there fighting for you guys, right? If you have any questions, we are always reach out to us. We should be in the know on this type of thing, and we plan to be, so.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say again, it's going to be painful. This project is going to sting. I want you to be prepared for it. But we'll try to make and do our best to make sure this project, in our assistance with MDOT and Dan's, in any way we can to make this project go as smoothly as possible.
Right. I know some look at us as Debbie Downers, but I would rather not sugarcoat something that we know is going to be tough. I always tell people that they may not like the answer that we say, but it will always be honest. Right. And you are correct. This is going to be pretty painful.
It is.
But it's going to be a beautiful road afterwards. It's going to be easier for us to maintain.
Long-term fix, right? It's not a Band-Aid, so that's a good thing for sure.
Yes, that helps. And I appreciate that you've been from the start of this project all the way up. And as I said, you're on here often because you do have our third largest department, so you touch a lot of the services. Thanks to our new guy, who actually you've been here over a year.
Yeah.
But this is your first time on the show.
Yep.
And I appreciate, and I'm sure with how you all coordinate, I'm sure you're going to be on more as well.
Okay.
Go.
Looking
Thank
forward
you
to it,
both.
Danny. Thank you for having me.
Thank
Thanks.
you. And thank you, everybody. Tune in next time to In Focus.